Well, there's no point in hearing about it secondhand. We can hear about it firsthand. Our correspondent, Joey Lazarowicz, was in Qatar for the entire World Cup. Joey, let's talk a little bit about it. That last game was energetic. Even people like me that don't follow the sport heard about this one and were following it. What was it like to actually be there during?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of dud finals the last World Cups. We've had games that were at 4-2, not much of a competition. And it looked like that, at the beginning of the match. It was 2-0 Argentina deep into the second half. But then suddenly it was 2-2. It goes into extra time, 3-2, 3-3 penalties. And people are saying it's one of the most epic World Cup finals ever. Obviously, Messi gets his first World Cup title. And just being on the ground, it felt like the whole state of Qatar, everyone who was there was just rooting for Messi to get that title. It just felt like everyone was pushing him, pushing the team to go and get that title that's been so elusive for him all these years.
And one of the things I want to talk about now is your experiences as an Israeli journalist in Qatar. What were the fans like? We saw on Israeli media, they got heckled, they got kicked out in some places. Yeah. But what were your experiences like?
I mean, personally, we didn't have that many issues. Mostly it was more people being curious about who I-24 News was, where we're from, what we do, how we report. When we spoke to the locals about the fact that we're from Tel Aviv, we're from Israel, they just wanted to know what we thought about the conflict, how the channel perceives Qatar as a nation. It wasn't very confrontational. Obviously, we saw early in the tournament there was a bunch of conversations between pro-Palestinian supporters at the stadiums and Israeli journalists. But after those first few days, it seems like it really calmed down, and people were just very welcoming in general when they heard about where we're from.
Now, people from this neck of the woods don't really get to go to Qatar often, or really at all, until the World Cup. What really struck you about Qatar? What stood out?
Well, it definitely felt like everything was brand new. Some things weren't even finished. The stadium that hosted the final was in Lusail, a city that was constructed out of thin air. It didn't exist, 12 years ago when Qatar won the bid to win the World Cup. So everything has practically been built from scratch in the last 12 years to suit FIFA's needs and to suit the needs of the fans that were going to come for this tournament. So everything suited, as a tournament for soccer fans, it was perfect because the entire city, the infrastructure was all built for the fans to come and experience this World Cup. And everything just seems very, very new and fresh in Qatar.
How did Qatar's local culture really feel like it was overshadowing the World Cup itself? Bans against alcohol, which, when you get football fans in the stadium, how did that really interact with your life there?
It was interesting to see the locals interact with the foreign fans, and at the beginning it felt like more of not to say segregation, but like people weren't interacting with each other. But I think as the tournament went on, we saw more warmth between the fans coming into Qatar and the Qataris themselves. The alcohol ban was obviously a big one, but it didn't seem to affect the fans that went to the stadium themselves. There was alcohol available at the FIFA fan festivals across the city and at hotel bars. So if you wanted alcohol, really, you could go find it, although it wasn't cheap, obviously. But it does seem that as the tournament went on, people got friendlier, and it did feel very welcoming towards the end, and the Qataris were good hosts, it seems, and the foreign fans that went there seemed to be pleased with the tournament they went to go see.
That's very interesting. Thank you very much, Joey, and for bringing us this perspective that many of us never really get to see.